So we begin with a rather like a top view of the side garden here. This is the middle of July and many things are at their peak of bloom. You'll see daisies, the white flowers, black-eyed Susans, the yellow flowers. The pink to the far left is Agapanthus. The foxgloves are finishing up. You see my rose, my Jubilee celebration. It's in the forefront there. Lots of pink blooms. The Larkspur has gotten pruned back a bit and is reblooming. Here is the roses to the side, a bit of the sidewalk, sidewalk. Bosco Bell, and that is my firefighter, the beautiful red. More Larkspur. The Larkspur is all self-seeded and just does beautifully this time of year. I'll eventually just cut it out of there. This Supernova Clematis has bloomed and bloomed and bloomed. It's in the tub with my Tess Rose. So we're going to go along the street side of the side garden. The crazy daisies are just doing beautiful here. Below it there is my Orion Geranium. You can see it in the background, the purple. Just the Monarda is just getting started. Give it a week or two. It'll be in full bloom. This is my other Bosco Bell rose. Again, my Roseanne Geranium. I just love this thing. It just blooms and blooms. Maybe next year I'll make a support for it so it'll hold it up taller rather than it spreading along the ground. And you can see a little peek at the white ground cover rose here. This is going to come out. I want to place it against my back fence line. More daisies. Those were self-seeded and I let them just go. I probably will move them for next season and or plant something maybe a little shorter here. More crazy daisies. These are some of my favorites back here where they're real frilly and ruffly. So here is my Nearly Wild Rose. It does beautifully in here. I was going to move it and then it was just doing so gorgeous I thought I would wait. More red Monarda. I think it's Jacob Klein, but I don't know for sure. The tall spiky things, those are my Crocosmias, and in one of the future videos you'll see them in full bloom. More self-seeded daisies. The thing with crazy daisies is each plant will have different flowers. The Achillea, this is Cerise Queen. I grew this from seed. Many things I grow from seed. Verbena bonariensis, gorgeous, love it. Reseeds readily. Some people consider it a bully. Here's some Larkspur that kind of got a late start, so it's blooming shorter, which is fine by me. Here is the sedum down there. That is Plum Dazzler. It has such a pretty color. It's kind of being obscured by the Larkspur, but it will be fine. More black-eyed Susans, self-seeders. This whole bed is new, so I was letting the self-seeders bloom, and then next year my flowers that I planted in here that are just getting started will be the stars of the show. Lots of pretties. This is kind of a drier area, so this is verbascum. This is a purple verbascum. I got this at Annie's Annual. I had seen him up at the Botanical Garden in Mendocino and loved the different verbascums. This is my Betty Harkness rose. It just doesn't show up on the screen how beautiful this rose actually is, but I have high hopes of it getting bigger and better. I got it at Heirloom Roses. I like their roses because their own root. This is my Happy Chappy Rose. Kind of skimmed past it fast. Coreopsis. This thing has bloomed nonstop. It's still blooming. As of this moment, talking here, it is the middle of August, and with deadheading, that keeps going. So down here is my Elkie hardy geranium. I do enjoy hardy geraniums. They're tough, come back every year, bigger and better. More Monarda. I try to repeat plantings, especially things that really do well. More self-seeded daisies. My compost pile there. Wave petunias down there, the purple wave petunias, doing beautiful at the base of, this is Kirsten Poulsen. It's an heirloom rose. Got it at Antique Rose Emporium. Beautiful delphiniums. There's the white rose in the back that is the ground cover rose that I had it growing up in Obelisk. More Orion Geranium and black-eyed Susans. It's self-seeded. This is a spot that gets no water, and they do just beautifully. Yeah, you see how beautiful this rose will be on the back fence. That piece I showed you earlier in the side garden is the same. This sedum is just gorgeous, but I think I started watering too much and it snapped off. My Eden rose at its height of bloom, doing beautiful. I think I'm going to plant another climbing rose with this here. This is Etoile Violet's Clematis. It bloomed for a long, long time, and I enjoyed it intermingling with the Eden. So down in the front garden here, the bright pink roses, those are, I forget. The sea holly. The sea hollies got much taller than I thought they would, and I think I'm going to move them backwards a bit. The ones in my back garden got eaten by the gophers. I didn't know they would eat them. More self-seeded larkspur that I let come up in this bed. Once it's done, I'll pull it out. More crocosmias, but they're not getting ready to bloom. More volunteer verbena bonariensis. It gets quite tall in many areas. So along the wall is where I had my new iris from Sutton's Iris Garden. They did okay. We had those late freezes, so a lot of the buds got froze out, but the plants are still alive, so we have high hopes for next year. And here's some more wave petunias I planted in those raised beds. They do have mesh under them, so the gophers cannot get in there. That's my banana cream daisy from Proven Winners. Poked it here, hoping it would do well. We'll see. It's just getting established. My cat's meow nepeta. Some more roses and petunias in a barrel. This one is Daisy May Daisy. Just planted that not long ago. Volunteer Echinacea. My roses that I have in barrels, they've not done great this year as far as blooming. I mean, they're doing pretty right here, but the rebloom has not been as full as usual, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Hyde Hall is the pink rose. That one can get up to 6 feet tall. When it had it in the back, it did, before the gophers started eating it. Over there in my yellow roses barrel, I have Graham Thomas and Golden Celebration. Golden Celebration is one of my favorites. It just has such a gorgeous color. More Achillea or Yarrow over there. Down here is my new Monarda. It's a short growing Monarda. It's called Perfect Purple or something like that. Pardon my purple. That's what it is. And there's my Miss Molly Buddleia. It's struggling. Spider mites have gotten it. Something fierce. This is a beautiful dahlia that's a deep burgundy. Here's another verbascum. This is called Southern Charm. These get quite tall once they're well established, so I have high hopes for that one. Another Aglaia daisy, also known as Shaggy Maggie. The white rose campion. That's really beautiful. This is my latest Origeron I got. Gaillardias. These are all self-sown. They bloom from, I don't know, June on through till first frost. Just gorgeously. That bench. I'm loving the bench. It's from Home Depot. I got it on a bargain. It was like $150. It was just really a great price. I'm still working on this bed. Now that I have the irrigation in, I can add more plantings, and I'm plotting that out as we speak. when you see the August video, these fill out like crazy. In fact, the lobelia gets completely swamped and you can't find it because of the petunias, but it's exactly what I wanted from them. This area, the bobo hydrangeas, they don't bloom well here, so I'm going to move them this fall to the back. But that area is getting revamped. Some pink wave petunias. This is my Abraham Darby. Abraham Darby is another David Austin rose. It's in a pot that's tucked back there behind this yarrow or achillea. I think that's another cerise queen. This is Dreamweaver climbing rose, and there's also a clematis on there, Belle of Walking clematis. That little ground cover down there that looks like it's suffering, I moved it and it's doing much better. It just didn't do well there. Always move things that aren't doing well. You may find they do better somewhere else. I had the amazing gray poppies in here, and they came out more burgundy than gray. They were pretty, but it wasn't the color I was really hoping for. These red poppies are volunteers from prior year. Very popular with the pollinators. If the poppies are out, the pollinators rarely go to anything else that's blooming at the moment. So a great pollinator plant if you're looking for one. This again is, we're on the side garden up against the house here. That's a black-eyed Susan. Down here is my cat's pajamas nepeta, which I've really been impressed with this year. I'm moving away from it. I'm doing a voiceover if you can't tell, because I didn't record my voice during this. More Crazy Daisy. This one I moved here last fall, and it's doing great because it's not overtaking anything. I may have to divide it. Behind it is a salvia, Twilight something salvia, but it's done fabulous. I'm loving it. I'm hoping to get cuttings and place it in other areas of my garden. My Warsaw Nike back there, just gorgeous, isn't it? That's another clematis. Right now it stopped blooming in August, but it will re-bloom for me. I cut it all back. This is Crown Princess Margareta rose. Down there is my Grandpa Newt rose, which I got from my grandparents' home before we had to sell it, which it was there for like 50 plus years. And I've had it here for 15 probably years. That is my pistachio clematis, which I accidentally yanked out last year and hurriedly replanted it. Over here is my studio patio. Now this is right in front of my studio cottage, and I made a little patio and have been planting around it. Many of the plantings on this hillside are test plants that I get from Annie's Annuals. I test to see how well they'll do here. This is Rose Campion. It's a reseeder, does beautiful. Will rebloom with deadheading. This is my Pam's Pink rose. It's a vintage rose. It takes a lot of extra care. This is, I'll have to remember that one. I got it at Annie's Annuals. When I do my side garden, I'll tell you the name of it. This is another Origeron. Just beautiful. Annie's Annuals again. Some Dianthus that come back every year. A hosta down here. It's gotten nibbled on by the gophers, so it's struggling. The bamboos are great. Those are the ones I did cuttings or division from, or are the divisions. Another white version of the Rose Campion. So down here you can see my gopher trap trying to catch them. This is my golden or lime feverfew. I love that. It just holds on to that beautiful color. Again, my Jubilee Celebration rose, which it blooms nonstop for me all summer. I'm very impressed. A lot of them will bloom, have a spell where it's not blooming, and then bloom again. But this is on the inside side garden. Those delphiniums will be blooming soon, and they'll be in a future video. They're a beautiful cornflower blue. So much going on. My Orion hardy geranium, I've heard that it does better than Roseanne, but it hasn't for me. So I may move it to where it gets a little bit more sun and is less crowded, and it may do well. This is the Agapanthus I was telling you about earlier. I need to move it. It gets too tall here, so I'm going to find it a drier, sunnier spot because it kind of obscures my Bosco Bell roses. And we're back to the Tess roses that I put in the barrels. I did a video on that. Now let's start in the back Secret Garden. This is a mess, but I enjoy it anyways. I have neglected the back because of focusing on the front garden. You can see my sea holly there falling over. That's because the gophers ate the roots. And so it ended up getting pulled up. Well, I just had to throw away the top because there was no roots, and I tried to replant it, but it didn't work. The petunias all along the front border of there are fabulous. They're even more fabulous as the summer continues. Echinacea back there, and the gophers have eaten some of them. The phlox are getting tall. I probably should have pruned them hard in May. And this is a dwarf Gara there that's kind of leaning over. It was getting smashed by something, and it's rebounded beautifully. You see my poppy back there? We'll probably get a close-up of it. That's the one the gophers ate. It's totally gone now. This, in a future video, you will see this filled, and that petunia there in with the rose is just gone rampant. So my silene down there, which is red Campion, it will self-seed too. Here it doesn't do it thuggishly, but it does reseed. There's a sweet pea that volunteered. Pretty purple. There's a Clematis. It blooms sporadically. It's not a very hefty bloomer. My Rains de Violets rose, and here's some more purple Monarda. This is Purple Rooster. More Larkspur that self-seeded, and I let it go. A poppy pod, that is Lauren's grape. I'm going to collect the seeds and spread them. More of the petunias. I grew these from seed, started them indoors on my plant racks, and they have been gorgeous. They don't get fed here, their watering is sporadic, and they have just thrived. Oh, so sad, my beautiful poppy. Down there's Hyde Hall Rose, which I'm going to have to dig up because the gophers are now eating it. So if I want to save it, I will have to dig it up and put it in a container. I think I'm going to do half wine barrels. They're big enough to let the roses get big. Some climbing roses, my iceberg, white iceberg, and I think the other one is Passionate Kisses, but I'm not certain. Look at that. Love that iceberg rose. There's pink larkspur mixed in there with the blue or purple. The Aglaia daisy. These things are still blooming. They have not stopped. Some alyssum down there. Another one of those petite pink garas. I love those. So that's a thread branch cypress there. I lost one. I didn't water it well. That one is still alive. More of the Gara, not Gara, I'm sorry, the daisy, Aglaia daisy. Look at the Nicotiana. This thing has done beautiful this year. It's part of a mix called Cranberry Isles, which I have been thrilled with, and the gophers haven't eaten it, and I think it's because of the nicotine family, which is poisonous. So my Colette rose, getting bigger and better. Thankfully, it's still in a pot so that the gophers don't eat it. There's the one Oriental Poppy down there they haven't eaten yet. Here, this this Petunia, in a future video, you'll see how wild it gets. This is a climbing Petunia, and it is climbing. It is gorgeous. A dahlia there in a pot, and a Japanese maple, and a beautiful, I think that's an Asiatic lily. This bed over here needs major work. I got some plants sitting here. This is a rose that's in a pot. This is the first one I had to save from the gophers. Some iris that needs to be thinned out. As I said, this bed needs a total reworking, and I have some ideas for it for when I do that. But there's daisies, some Nicotiana, lots of iris in here. The violas are done. They got pulled out because the spider mites were getting them. So lots of pretties. There's my milkweed. I've actually kept it alive this year. I have one out front too in the front garden. So lots of pretties. Back here is where I have my lime Nicotiana, which is beautiful. Look at that. This, another rose Campion. This seeded here by itself, and I just let it go. So it's a penstem in there. It's just getting established. My Sharifa Asma David Austin rose. I dug this up from out front. The gophers were getting it. So the centerpiece again. And my Princess Alexandra of Kent rose. Right now it's so swamped with that petunia you can't even see the rose. But it's still in there, doing great. I make sure I give it extra feed. That is a lemon coral sedum there that's so bright. So here's in front of my cutting garden. Look at this, is my Kiss Me Kate rose. Isn't that gorgeous? I love it. It's a climber. It's on this arbor I have over the cutting garden. The cutting garden turned also into a veggie garden. I planted my tomatoes here. I ran out of spots that hadn't had tomatoes in them before, so they got planted back here. And that is, I think, Viking Queen climber, but it gets singed very easy in the heat, so I think I'm going to have to exchange it out. This is an area of just cedars, self-cedars. This is going to get pulled out. The retaining wall is starting to buckle, so we need to replace that. And there's my other veggie garden with the raised beds. This area also is getting ravaged by the gophers, but most of the raised beds do have the wire mesh beneath. So that's it, friends. See you next time.